if you want to cheat on a workout at some point. And what I found out is that the clock that I grabbed off the internet, while it still is a clock, it goes from 0 minutes to 2 hours, second by second. Yo! As you can probably already tell, this is going to be a little bit of a different video. It's going to be one straight shot through, and I'm going to tell you why the CrossFit Games have been rigged every single year that they've been in existence. And I can't say that with certainty, but what's going to happen is you're going to watch what's going on over here and over here, and at the end of it, you're at least going to wonder what would have been if things had been different. So I did a little bit of an experiment because, you know, I'm an exercise scientist. I went to school for this stuff. I got my degree in kinesiology and exercise science, so I might as well put that stuff to use. Everything that I've ever done, everything that I've ever put out into the world, it's not just something that I spew, it's something that I want to put into practice. So when I was thinking of this video, it actually stemmed from watching the TV show Naked and Afraid. If you think about what it meant to be fit before Greg Glassman put out his definition of fitness, and watch the clock's going to speed up right here in a minute. Everything speeds up at the same time. But before Greg Glassman put out fitness in 100 words and what is fitness, fitness was kind of defined as your means of survival. So I would watch Naked and Afraid, where these people are naked and afraid, and they're put out into the wilderness, and they're put into these environments, and they're not always the same. Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're cold. And then the first priority of these people is to find shelter, to find water, and then it's to protect themselves from the elements. So I got a sauna the other day.
Wow.
As you can see on the left, I'm in the sauna. I hope that's the left. And on the right, I'm not in the sauna. I'm just sitting in this chair, and I'm doing it over here. And that will be called the control, because remember, I am an exercise scientist. Experiment, control. In the control, you can see that my heart rate sitting at 70, 76, 70, 60, and it's just bouncing up and down. Doesn't really go any higher than 75, doesn't really go any lower than 60, but it sits in there, and that's going to be the control heart rate. Over on the left, it just hit 112. And in the beginning, you can see that when I was in the sauna, it was in the 80s, it crept up to the 90s, and now it's into the hundreds. And what you're going to see over on the left as I'm sitting in the sauna is that all I'm doing is I'm sitting there. And I think at one point I had to go turn the heater back on because it's got this automatic shut off, and there is going to be a spike there, but then it doesn't go back down under 100. The sauna is at about 175, and sitting at 175 with me not doing anything, look at where that heart rate sits. So I was watching Justin Medeiros at the games this year, and he did the bike ride, and maybe he's not the best bike rider, but when you're watching him do that pig workout, it's really freaking hot. And it's really freaking hot for everybody, yes. But he's from Vancouver. No, he's not from Vancouver. He's from somewhere over in Portland, right? Somewhere in that area. And it's not the hottest year round over there. It made me think about the years where Froning's winning back to back to back to back to back. It makes me wonder if people aren't moving to Tennessee because of the tax exemptions, but maybe they're moving there because it's a good place to train in relation to what the environment would be at the games every single year, that being something hot. And I was at the games every single year. Oh, here we go, I'm standing. I should probably explain what I'm doing at this point. So the control, I'm watching myself in real time, and I go, oh crap, I gotta stand up now. Eventually they sync up, and I stand up at the same time, so I'm gonna stand for 5 minutes here. And again, the control, I'm standing in the heat, and I'm standing out there. So I went 15 minutes of sitting, where you can see that my heart slowly crept up, and it didn't in the control group, so the heat did have an effect. And then at the 15-minute mark, I'm going to stand there for 5 minutes. And what you're going to see in the control group is it kind of creeps back down almost to where it was when I was sitting. And I got this little pivot, like this athletic thing. I don't know, when I was in football in 6th grade and I was a fat little crap, I heard someone say that it means you're athletic if you never stand still. So I never really stand still anymore, and I just think it burns calories. Here we go. I'm jumping. I'm going to jump for a minute, and then I'm going to sit for a minute. And what you're going to see between the two groups is that there is going to be a heart rate spike in both of them, but on the control group, it's not really going to go all that high. In the heat group, it's going to go higher and higher and higher. And what I'm trying to prove here is that because the games have always been in a hot environment, it's probably had a huge effect on not just who wins, who's on the podium, but all the way down the leaderboard, because we're talking about people who come from foreign countries. They're cold. In a world where the ice bath has been so freaking prioritized, I don't understand why heat and heat adaptation hasn't been talked about as much as it maybe should have been. And I'm not saying that this is going to be something that now everybody's going to go do. There's going to be people jumping in their saunas all over the world so that they become heat adapted, because, I mean, the games this year, I think Barbell Spin posted that 95%, and he took this from Castro somewhere, 95% of the games, workouts will be held indoors in Texas, and everyone's freaking out when they talk about Atlanta, and everyone's freaking out when they're talking about Texas. But if you've ever been to Madison, all of the years except for one, it's been pretty freaking hot. The one year they had the obstacle course and everyone's out there in their shirts and they're kind of bundled up. But before that, it's in Texas, and you remember the stories of the heat gun on the floor. And the floor temperature is 115 degrees, and this is what happens. So see, I'm sitting there on the left. Heart rate's not going down all that quick. It's sitting in green, which on this little strap I got, here, it's over here, the MyZone strap. See this thing? I like this thing. I got like 50 of them. And I also had it on my Apple Watch. So I was sitting there, and that's kind of how I was timing it. I had the Apple Watch, which lined up really nicely with the MyZone. Way better than the Whoop does. Screw the new modern Whoop, if you haven't seen any of those videos. But I stand up, I start jumping, you can see that it spikes again. And you can see that as I'm in the heat, it doesn't drop. I guess I really haven't concretely told you exactly what the experiment is here, but it's 15 minutes of not moving, it's 5 minutes of standing into 3 sets of a minute jumping and a minute sitting, followed by a 5-minute sit down. And in that last 5-minute sit down, you're really going to see the effect of the heat of just sitting there. It really shows that if you aren't acclimated to it, which I think that I'm decently acclimated to. I've been doing this sauna every single day for 3 weeks now, I think I've had it. But even before that, I'd go into the sauna 2 or 3 days a week. And I would do something similar to this, where my standard sauna session is I go in there, I have my headphone in, as I always do, because I'm always listening to CrossFit content, and I'll wait until I get uncomfortable, and then I'll start a clock. And I try to sit in there for an additional 5 minutes once I think I'm uncomfortable. And then I'm almost always around the 20 to 28 minute mark. Somewhere in there is when I get that first hit of, ooh, I got to get out. And then you force yourself to stay in. And when that kind of started, I think I read a book on Dan Gable. Dan Gable is a wrestler, and he would do this thing. Best wrestler of all time. He would always want to make sure that he was doing more than everybody else. And he said, hey, if I'm going to hold in the dead of winter the gas handle and not use that little mechanism that keeps it pouring into the car, and my opponents aren't going to do that, and I do it every single time, that's that much more grip strength training that I'm getting than everybody else. And Dan Gable had this thing about the sauna, and I don't do this because I think this is a good way to kill yourself. You sit in the sauna, if someone comes in, you can't leave until that person leaves. But all I see is like someone's going to come in, and then they're going to leave, and then you're going to leave, and then someone else comes in, and then before you know it, you never leave the sauna. So I have stuck with this method that is, I come in, stay in there, find yourself being uncomfortable, and then hang out for a little bit longer. And my 5 minutes is that. And in this one, it was just an experiment to show you guys the effect of heat. And as you can see over on the right, it never gets anywhere near that blue zone, my zone 2. I was going to do this entire bit about zone 2 training and how you could kind of sort of use the sauna as a zone 2 trainer. I mean, look at this. I'm hanging out in the green, which would be my zone 3. And I have this entire issue with zone 2 training and people doing all this zone 2 training. You don't need to do zone 2 training. You got to do more CrossFit. It's not your heart rate that's keeping you out of control. It's your lack of ability to move a barbell. It's your lack of ability to do the gymnastics movements. And because you can't do that many gymnastics movements and you don't know how to breathe, you blow up really quick and you, oh, my heart rate. And it's like, no, it's not your heart rate. It's you don't know how to breathe through the movements, you freaking idiot. You're not efficient with the movements, you freaking idiot. That's an entire different thing. Today we're talking about just heat, just how the CrossFit Games have been rigged. And as you can see, I'm now officially at 164. And all I've been doing is I sat for 15 minutes, I stood for 5 minutes, and I've done 1 minute on, 1 minute off of jumping. And this is that last 5 minute increment that I've talked about where I'm just going to sit there. I'm just going to sit there, And as you can see, I'm already back to baseline on the right. I hope that's the right again. I'm just in the garage, hanging out. But over on the left, that crap's not coming down. It's not going under 140. So imagine being someone like Justin Medeiros this year where everyone's talking crap about making videos about the dude, and maybe he just had some sort of issue with the heat. As a lot of people could. Everyone was on the same floor. And I know I already threw some shade at the ice buckets out there, and maybe being in a colder environment, and see that thing shut off, the GoPro overheated. I knew that it would overheat, but you still have the heart rate. So on the top left, you'll see that it's gonna turn sideways at some point. That's me getting out of the sauna. So I'll point out when that eventually happens. And over on the right, nothing's gonna change. So this is gonna short out, all right, about now. See how it turns sideways? That's me getting out of the sauna. And then in this time, where I'm getting out of the sauna, you're going to see it about drop off because it's colder outside of the sauna. So I go from 175 in there to, I think I have it set to 68 or something degrees in the garage. So as I come out, you'll see the heart rate drop. And I do wonder if that is the only purpose of those ice buckets, because you can go into a cold room, you're at the CrossFit games, you're out on the field, you're flipping the pig, that pig is really hot, you get all jacked up, your heart rate goes to 180, 190, 200, and then you see that you will not drop if you're in the heat. You go back to Murph, the year where they did it, not when the sun was at its highest in 2015? I think it was 15 when they did Murph, and there were people passing out everywhere. And then in the ensuing year, 2016, there's shade on portions of the field. And if there's a difference in temperature, it 100% affects the outcome of that event. If there's an athlete whose heart rate is being held higher the entire time. See, it still hasn't dropped. It's still at 153. And I am out of the sauna at this point. It drops in the next minute or so, and I haven't sped up or slowed down the clock. You could see it right there. And by the way, as I was doing all this is something that's interesting. If you want to cheat on a workout, at some point, I tried to grab a clock off the internet, and for some reason I couldn't sync up the clock to the clip. And what I found out is that the clock that I grabbed off the internet, while it still is a clock, it goes from 0 minutes to 2 hours, second by second, and I wanted to plug it into this. I realized that it speeds up or slows down. It slows down. So I was like, wait a minute, I started jumping at 15 minutes. Why does the clock say 15:30? And it's because the clock's moving slower. And if you're doing a workout, let's say a 10-minute workout, you get an extra 20 seconds or so to move. I was just thinking, this is so stupid. I guarantee you there are people out there who do this. So this will be another thing that I'm looking for in the upcoming year. But look at the top left. That was my experimental heart rate, and now it is down. And I keep this thing just going for a little while because I wanted to see how low I could get it. I start doing this breathing pattern where I sit there and I try to breathe in for 8 seconds. I hold on for 5 or 6 seconds, and then I try to let it out as slow as I can. And that can extend upwards of, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds. And then you try to keep it out for as long as you can once you feel that there's no more air in your lungs. That usually helps me drop my heart rate pretty quick. Didn't really get under 100. But the point of the experiment is to show you guys that they're the exact same things. And someone's going to notice that there's a can of C4 in the sauna, and they're going to go, you freaking moron! It's an experiment, and you threw in a variable. The can of C4 is going to jack you up. All right, I've had so much caffeine that it has 0 effect on my heart rate. Andrew, that's impossible! Shut up. I don't care what you have to say. It doesn't matter what you think. But I am sitting there, got the can of C4, and if you do want to throw that onto it, I'm drinking it there, and if anything, it would have more an effect on the experiment later because I completely calmed down. I tried to take an hour or so in between the time in which I had finished the sauna one. The strap was still soaking freaking wet from having done it in the sauna. I put the thing back on, so that's about how long I had in between them, so the C4 would still be having an effect on me, and heart rate is lower. So if anything, this one would be skewed. The control would be skewed more so than the other one, but you can see that it stays lower. Point proven. Think about all the games workouts. And I do imagine people like Froning who live in Tennessee, and you can't blame him for living in Tennessee. And the CrossFit games will be moving to Texas, which is hotter. That's worse. But they're all going to be inside. Post barbell spin link here, Andrew, while you're editing this thing up. And you wonder about people like Laura, who went to work out with Ben Smith. Ben Smith, hot environment, cold environment. Hungary is more temperate, I believe. I don't know that for sure, and I haven't done all of the other work, but I do remember standing there this year, sweating my ass off. Crap. I swore! Sweating like crazy, watching him work out, and you're just thinking, I wonder how much of an effect the heat's having on him. And I wonder if he even realizes that. And I wonder if that's some sort of precaution that he's going to be taking. And I wonder if that's something that has played into multiple games performances over the past courses of however long. And that's all I got to say about that. And Hiller, out.
Please smash that like button, no one touches there now.
Yesterday, he said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success, while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just